Hello guys and welcome back to Zenith and welcome back to our weekly drop of news for World of Warcraft Retail. Now, please bear with me because this is a brand new series that we're bringing out on the channel where every week we're going to go through Season of Discovery news, retail news, and probably some classic era news as well, but that's for a later date. Today we are going to be going through the latest updates that we've had for World of Warcraft, and we're also going to be going into a little bit more detail on what these news updates mean. I, for one, spent many years just reading the news and thinking, this is pretty cool, but what does it actually mean on the grand scheme of things? So we are going all the way back to April the 5th, and we were dropped with a Blizzard note. Now, some of these references are going to be a little bit of old news, some of them are going to be good news, some of them are going to be bad news, but we're going to go through absolutely everything, so stay tuned for that. So, without further ado, on the 5th of April, we had Blizzard make a lovely blue post for us, and they kind of clarified a few things. So, the patch 10.2.6 patch notes that went live on the 1st of April were April Fools. I don't think they kidded everybody there at all. I think the community did a better job this year of doing April Fool's jokes, in my opinion. But hey, they did it anyway. Dragonflight, we are getting to the end of Season 3, so it's very normal to see a huge nerf in abilities and everything for Mythic raids. They have pretty much nerfed Mythic to the ground. I even think there was like reports of like nearly 50 million health going off some of the end bosses for Mythic. So if you are trying to get cutting edge, now is the time to do it. That's not to say that because you got it post nerf, you didn't get CE or it's like a nerfed CE or whatever. That's a little rubbish in my opinion. I wanted to say a different word, but we've got to keep it family friendly. You've got cutting edge, you've got cutting edge. That is how it is. So well done if you managed to get that one. So the Noble Garden, the mount drops from the new boss was increased, and the first account kill bonus was added. In my opinion, that is a really nice thing to have added, because most of the time it does feel like, unless you're doing it 1,000 times over, you're not going to get that boss drop. But the first account kill bonus is quite nice. Especially if you only play 1 or 2 characters on your account, it's quite nice to have that bonus. Sometimes people with ults, like if you're like an achievement farmer, for example, you have to go with like 11 ults max level. Otherwise, the time you get the mount, it's old content by that point. Dragonflight Season 4 PTR came out, which was the April the 2nd to the 8th, which is now gone by the time this video drops. The public testing has already gone, and we're going to review some of the changes that they have already made, so stay tuned for that one. WoW Classic Phase 3 came out, which we know, brilliant, and Nightmare Incursions also came out. And Wrath of the Lich King Season 8 ends very soon, ready for the Kata launch, which I've also got a little bit of a theory on this one, so we're going to go to that one in a second. So, the first thing that we're going to cover is Primal Storms. Now, if you haven't seen the news already, this is quite a recent thing that somebody has explored on Reddit, and they have posted to say that you can get from 60 to 70 in retail in about 60 to 90 minutes just by doing Primal Storms. Now, Primal Storms for some reason were spawning 2 at a time. They were only ever spawning 1 at a time, so that was 1 every 3 hours. They were spawning 2 every 3 hours, so you kind of had like a gap, so it was like an hour and a half basically per Primal Storm, which wasn't that bad in my opinion. However, we don't know whether this has come through as like a bit of like a nerf, if you like, because they were seeing people abuse this ability. But the reason why Primal Storms are really good right now, because when Season 4 comes out, the meta achievement is going to be slightly harder to farm, because obviously everything's going to scale up with item level, so you're going to have to refarm all your item level, and it's the end of the season, so not a lot of people have a lot to do. You've already probably got your Mythic Plus achievements, or your Arena achievements, or your Cutting Edge and Raid achievements, so you're probably just chilling, doing different achievements. However, if you have an ult that you want to farm this on, what you can do is go to the Primal Storm with an ult and just spam kill everything and tag everything. All you need to do is tag the enemies, and Like, the XP is ridiculous. Per elite is almost 1% of your bar. And every time you're in a primal spawn, if you don't know what they are, they're like hyper spawned mobs. And then on top of the hyper spawn, you've also got other mobs that come in because of the primal storm. So it's just an absolute cascading event of storms and mobs, and just to your cart's content. There is really good data to show that if you just go there at level 60, for example, and just tag mobs, you just gain XP at a ridiculous rate. It's really good if you don't want to do time walking, for example. Time walking was a really good way of leveling, but the problem with time walking is unless you're a tank and a healer, you spend a lot of time in the queue. So this cuts that out by quite a significant amount. Some storms are better than others. So some storms you will find that you're gaining like 2 or 3 levels per storm. Other storms, you're only going to be gaining like 1 or 2 levels. So keep that in mind. However, it is pretty much an AFK thing to do, because you can just stand, like if you're a hunter, for example, just get barrage on your bars and just spam barrage all the time. Or if you're any other character, just literally use anything AoE. And then the max levels that are trying to farm the achievement, you're just going to be siphoning the XP off them, because obviously they don't need the XP, so they're just going to be killing it for the achievement. On top of that, you can then convert the gear that you can buy with the Primal Essence into Season 1 Transmog. That is not an upgrade in your gear at all, just simply for Transmog. So I would strongly recommend that if you're looking to get the achievement, do it on alt. If you are new coming back to Season 4, now is the time to get into the game and get to max level pretty fast. You do need to be level 60, however, but that being said, it shouldn't take too long to do it at all. Obviously, if you paid up for a WoW boost, that's something completely different. You don't need to do any of this. But if you're also trying to farm the achievement, just know it is back down to 1 storm at the moment. That could change very soon though, because we do know what Blizzard is like, and they do like to keep us on our toes, and they do like to edit different things. So that is something to look at. Now, let's go over to the Season 4 PTR Mythic Plus hotfixed. Now, they have nerfed and hotfixed a lot. Now, as we know, in Season 4, they are increasing the difficulty of each dungeon. I made a video on that one that'll be somewhere over the screen not too long ago. And they are already starting to nerf some of the abilities, which is quite interesting to me. On one hand, they want to increase the difficulty, but then on the other hand, like as you can see here in Alderman, Fiery Surge damage reduced by 50%. Now, obviously, if you haven't watched some of the PCR testing, some people were getting absolutely slaughtered, like it was a one-shot to a tank on some of these abilities. So they did have to do some level of nerf. However, a 50% nerf on some of these abilities, in my opinion, seems very significant because of the item level drop. I mean, some of the item levels is going to be like, I think it's like 530 or 535 is going to be max item level. So to reduce it by 50% at launch either means they're going to buff it mid-season, or they've overtuned way too hard already. So it's quite nice that they are starting to reduce a lot of these things. Hopefully they are looking at the casual player, and they are also looking at balancing it for higher keys as well, because what we don't want is for them to balance it just for casual players, and then there's no point in pushing a high key because the lower keys become so easy that anybody can do them. But then also on the other hand, you don't want it so hard that absolutely nobody can do higher keys either, because that would just cut quite a big dynamic to the game. So if we go through these, Alderman, the Lost Dwarves. So if you don't know, and if you're a classic player, Alderman in Dragonflight has changed quite significantly. The names of the bosses do seem to be the same, I have to say. However, there are quite a few different changes. So we've got the Lost Dwarves, Fiery Surge reduced by 50%. The burning pitches and maximum radius reduced from 10 to 6 yards. That's a 4-yard reduction. Addresses an issue where heavy arrow is damaging pets. I mean, that's quite a nice thing for hunters and warlocks, I have to say. This yard one here, I feel like that's because the Lost Dwarves is always in that little tiny room, and 10 yards is actually quite a significant range, especially in that small little area. So you're probably having to like hide right in the corner. So that's quite a nice little change. Sentinel, they have reduced the Earth Shard's initial damage by 20% and the Shard's periodic damage by 12.5%. That's a nice one for the healers, just saying. Emberon, burning heat's duration reduced by 4 seconds and adjusted seeking flames visual so it does not clip into the terrain. That's quite a nice little bug fix that they're fixing there. Ruby Life Balls, the Primalist, Flame Dances, end of channel damage and reduced by 25%. And Kirak reduced the number of flame spit targets from 3 to 2. The Academy, Mana Bomb periodically damage is reduced by 20%, and Corruption Mana now has a slightly delay before inflicting damage to players inside of its effect. That is quite nice. These do seem to be geared more towards tank and healers, in my opinion. For the most part, like most of this is damage that you can just dodge when you're a DPS. So this is more to do with like tanks and healers, which is quite nice, I guess. Withering damage is reduced by 16.7%. No longer stacks as announced at the start of Season 4, which is quite a nice change, I have to say. No longer double dips when spawns from a decay totem. This is so all of these changes here are unconfirmed changes. So what they mean by an unconfirmed change is these are changes that people have seen in the game and they've kind of looked at overall, and Blizzard hasn't made a blue post about them. So Blizzard does sometimes do this. They'll make changes to the game where they won't physically announce it. They'll test it and then they'll announce it going forward if they like the change. Otherwise, they'll change it back. The Knock HUD offensive, the initial damage reduced by 30%. This was definitely needed, by the way. This was like a solid one-shot on people playing PTR. Ruby Life Pools, initial tick removed from the Blaze of Glory. Again, this was hitting very hard because you would have the initial Blaze of Glory hit and then it would instantly tick for the first one. So it was super, super annoying. And then we've also got the Longboat Raid. They've changed this ever so slightly. So I'm liking these tunings that they've done so far, in my opinion. They are seeming to reduce them when needed, and hopefully we shouldn't see such a big significant jump between Season 3 and Season 4. That being said, there is quite a huge item level difference between Season 3 end and Season 4 start. So there is going to be a lot of farming that we're going to need to do with our characters. But we'll wait and see for when this comes out. Again, it's unconfirmed on how much of an impact this is going to have, but we'll have to wait and see. Now, this one, I did find it quite funny. I wasn't going to include it, but I did want to include it for you guys because I know some of the people would like to know about this. So Tivan, this is a mount. So this is like a special event that you can do. You go around, you complete a set of achievements, and then you get this lovely mount here. They have actually reduced the size of the mount. So it used to be, as you can see here, it used to be this big. When you were mounting on it, it was pretty big, I have to say. Like compared to other mounts, it was huge. And it's now reduced in size, I would say, by nearly like 40%, in my opinion. So as you can see here, this was the old nerf, the old before the nerf. This is now the nerfed version. So as you can see, they've kind of reduced it quite a lot. But again, I feel like that was needed because otherwise people are just going to troll around on the mount. But it's nice to see that they are making those little details. And the very last thing about the news that we've got right now for retail is they have teased us with the 10.2.7 PTR. Now, the servers have not changed. It says Dragonflight 10.2.7, but you cannot do anything when you press play. Now, in my opinion, I'm looking forward to 10.2.7. I'm really, really intrigued on how they are going to bring in this new game mode into the game and how they're going to make it affect the game itself. Whether or not they're going to keep adding these little teasers, if you like, of different games within the game, or whether they're just going to bring things forwards. We've already had Plunderstorm. We're now going to be getting like a roguelike game with the pandas. And we know it's Mr. Pandarian themed. We know that they make reference to a roguelike game, but we don't know anything more than that. You can read on the Dentamine stuff that's out there. However, you don't really get much more information than that at this moment in time. The fact that it's already hit PTR means that they are looking at releasing some form of an update soon officially, which is super exciting, but we are going to wait and see for that one to come out. When it comes out, I will be making a lot of videos of it and playing it, obviously. So if you want to stay tuned for that, make sure to smash that subscribe button. Let me know in the comment section below what you think about the current updates that they are making to Season 4 Retail Dragonflight, and I will see you all in the next one.